So going back to before the sort of raise then, and obviously you've been there for not too long, about 18 months you mentioned earlier, but going back to when the company was sort of in that startup phase then, what were some of the sort of fundamentals, or if you think back to what was done before you joined them, what were some of the fundamentals that Proximie got in place then to make sure that actually you were able to scale them?
Yeah, there's a super simple answer to this question, and it's going to sound a bit cheesy, but it really isn't, because I've seen it in other organisations, but I've certainly seen it in Proximie, and that is like knowing your mission and being true to it and sticking to it. And one of the things that was so true and is still incredibly true and powerful within Proximie is that even though, you know, as a startup, there wasn't a HR department, there wasn't values-based recruitment, but without knowing that anyone was really doing it, they were absolutely doing it. And so you join Proximie, and behind Nadine, our founder, there's this incredible like line of one. You know, we are there to provide access to safer surgery around the world. And that's why she started Proximie. She essentially wanted to increase her ability as a surgeon herself to provide expert care to more than one person at any one time. And so having that like really mission-led at the centre of everything that we do is I think what's kept us, and it is what powers us forward now. I mean, every one of our town hall meetings, we still always have a mission and vision story. Someone comes on and goes, this is why I'm here, and here's an example of how it's turned, how it's come to play. My first week that I was there, Proximie's used in Kenya, and we had our first C-section delivery of a baby that wouldn't have been possible without the power of Proximie being in the room, being able to train people and being able to talk people through that procedure. And so, you know, those things are hard to replicate in other businesses, but they're really, really powerful. I think from like a marketing perspective, they did a number of really key things early doors. Understand tone of voice. They were, very much linked to sort of mission, brand, values, but understanding that tone of voice, and found it early on, and we've stuck to it. And then we used PR as like a really key lever for us. You know, we had some pretty heavy hitting PR, CNN, Boston Globe, the Times. We've been in most of the broadsheets in the UK. So I think, early doors, we got in with getting our name out there on a large scale and using some of the case studies to do that.
Superb. And do you think that's marketing's responsibility to sort of help with that mission statement at the start, or do you think that should be founder-led? I guess it varies from company to company, but I'm thinking that if people are listening to this podcast, they're in a business where maybe that isn't sharp enough, should they take responsibility for it as a marketeer?
I think you've got to. Like I always sort of joke that it's not, everything that marketing does has to really line up to that strategic intent. And, ultimately a strategic intent will come from that mission and the objectives from that mission and so if what you're doing in marketing, which is responsible for how you're portrayed, internally, externally, to investors, to the rest of the world, isn't fundamentally lined up and is clear on that mission, then I think that's going to be a really difficult job for anybody. So yeah, I'd always encourage anyone to get that sorted. And like I say, I know that's difficult in some senses. I'm lucky to work in health, and I'm lucky to work in an organisation that clearly, has some quite emotive examples of its mission, but yeah, it's fundamental, I think.